Hi everyone, I'm Nicola Jane Francis, an animation director and animator with over 10 years of experience freelancing in the commercial world of animation. If you're starting out especially, but even with experienced animators, editing your showreel can be a daunting task. In this video, I'm going to talk through some very practical steps of how to gather your body of work, select appropriate clips, and then edit them into a showreel that represents your skills and creativity as a moving image artist. To begin, it's good to understand the role our showreel plays within the context of our portfolio. Clearly knowing what the purpose of a showreel is will be the foundation that you can return to when things seem complicated. Your showreel is a window into the creative practice, a tasty morsel to entice the viewer into exploring more of your work on other platforms such as your website and social media. Not everything you've made should find its home on your reel, but all of your work has value and deserves to be showcased. This is where spaces like your website are great to display the pieces that don't feature on your reel, as well as your still image and pre-production work. Before you start this process, remember, don't be too harsh on yourself. You're still learning. You'll recut your reel dozens of times in your animation journey, and this is just one of many. If you're still a student, 20 seconds of your best 5 clips can do the job well. Once you have some more work, you can continue to build on that. I would recommend aiming for between 45 seconds and a minute for your first 1 to 5 years in the industry, with the opportunity to expand later on. Don't feel tempted to pad your work with pieces you otherwise wouldn't include, in the hopes it makes it appear as if you have more experience. It often has the opposite effect than what you intended. Setting up to start editing. Set yourself up for long-term success by organising your project well from the start. Set up a new sequence with the most commonly used settings. In Europe, that's 24 frames per second and 1920 by 1080 square pixels. Of course, this can vary, so go with what is the most standard in your part of the world. I like to name my sequences with the date at which I'm creating them. This makes it easy to identify the latest version in the future. When you come back to edit your reel again in a few months, you can duplicate the sequence for quick clip replacements or start from scratch. It's also a good idea to name your folders within your editing file. This could be splitting clips between personal projects and commercial pieces, films and exercises, different mediums, whatever makes sense and can grow long term. Don't forget a folder for your music tracks. If you set things up from the start, you can then return to the file again and again with minimal effort. How to pick music. We don't want to rely on the music on our reel, as it may be muted depending on how and where someone watches it, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't pay attention to it and do our best to integrate it into the edit. Try picking a track that you don't mind listening to over and over again, something that suits your style and vibe, although fairly upbeat and fun is always a winner, and a track that has a distinctive beat that can help with editing later on. I enjoy using the beat to help set the pace of my cuts and will select a track with this in mind. It's crucial to understand the basics of licensing and use music in a way the creator has given permission for. Because you're not making money from your reel, you can look for non-commercial licensing. A few places to look for music include YouTube Music Library, museopen.org/music, Bandcamp, and Artlist.io. Of course, if you yourself work with sound or have generous friends who do, that's a great option too. How to edit the music. Import your track into the corresponding folder within your editing software. Drop the track onto your timeline. Hopefully you picked this particular track because it had some characteristics and flourishes you enjoyed, and that's a great place to start. You're going to need to trim down the track to an appropriate length. I like to decide roughly how long I want my reel to be and work from there. Identify a starting point. This can be the start of the track itself or somewhere later that doesn't feel too abrupt. If there does happen to be a flourish you like and want to include, then make sure to keep that in. It's absolutely fine to edit multiple sections of the track together and can be helped by some of the effects available in certain software. For the end, you can choose to fade out or edit a natural finishing point from the track. How to select clips. There are 3 main criteria I use to assess my work and select clips for my reel. We're looking for variety and demonstrating technical skill, but perhaps most importantly, we want things to move. Variety means we want each clip to be different from each other, different angles, different perspectives, different styles and techniques. For character animators, this can look like a mixture of wide and close-ups, different types of anatomy and physics, head turns, expression changes, different personalities and physicalities. For experimental animators, this can lean more into the different mediums and materials you've used, experimentations and interpretations you've explored within your work, pieces that are visually and tonally different from each other. It's not necessary to edit a new showreel for each job application. However, if there is a specific company you would like to work with, make sure to select clips which demonstrate the kind of action and style they use in their work within your own reel. How to edit your clips together. As with the music, begin by importing all of your moving image work into the prepared folders. Go through each project and identify the sections that meet the 3 criteria we spoke about. No need to narrow things down too much just yet, so choose as many as you like at this stage. Take each of the long listed sections and place them on your timeline away from the music, so further down the sequence and out of the way. Time to narrow things down into a short list. Find clips that are similar or serve the same purpose and keep the one that is more technically proficient, encompasses more skills, or is more varied from the other clips you have, and keep that one. Place your strongest clip at the start of your timeline. We're looking for something that you feel is your most accomplished piece from the shortlisted clips. If you do have a section of music track that has a flourish or a beat drop or something of that kind, I like to find a clip that matches it well and place it early. From here, it's a case of trial and error. Play with your shortlisted clips, seeing what works well next to each other on your timeline until you feel happy. Give yourself plenty of time, as this is a creative process. Don't be afraid to pause and come back to it with fresh eyes on a later date. Keep going until you've used all your clips, or you feel the length of your music. It's okay to not use all of your shortlisted clips if you're satisfied you've showcased everything you want to. It's also okay to extend or shorten your track selection here too. Feel free to change the speed of a clip to help it fit into a space between two other clips. You can also trim pauses from the middle of a clip. Just because a held frame made sense in the original project doesn't mean you need to keep it in the reel. If it helps, you can group clips. This could be by having all of your animation first, then all your cleanup. It could be all of your frame-by-frame animation, followed by your 3D or motion design, perhaps your 2D work, and then your stop-motion clips. Personally, I like to work with the action and composition of the clips and try to get a pleasant flow from one to the next, grouping them visually and sometimes thematically. If you're adding a piece of work which includes lip sync, make sure you dip the volume of your music for the duration and that you include the original audio. If I can't hear the dialogue you match the animation to, then I can't tell how successful it is or isn't. Text within your reel. It's a good idea to include text in at least two places in your reel. Firstly, a card that includes your name, email address, website, and a list of the software you're comfortable using. This is all important information for anyone who might be considering employing you. The card can hold for roughly 3 seconds, and I personally like to place it at the end of my reel, so the start of the reel goes straight into animation. The other piece of text is to annotate your clips. Often placed at the bottom left corner, this text is used to describe your role on the project, which is especially important on collaborative projects, where we want to take credit for our own hard work and not accidentally do the same for anyone else's. If the clip is from a film, it could be nice to add the title, so if someone wants to watch the whole thing, they can easily find the project on your website. You might also choose to include the software you used to create each piece. This is particularly good for any animators using a mixture of techniques and mediums across their work, especially if you've used non-digital techniques I might not immediately identify by looking at them. With the annotation text, pay attention to the balance of the composition. Don't place the text so far into the screen that it covers large portions of animation, but also don't place it so far into the corner that everything feels unbalanced. Export settings. Make sure your frame rate and resolution match the settings you used when creating your sequence. In general, exporting as an MP4 H.264 is a good way to go. How to grow your showreel quickly. If you're looking at your reel and you feel like you want to show more, great. Use this as motivation to create more animation. However, first spend a moment identifying what's missing. Watch the reels of people you admire, animators you want to work with, or animators who regularly work for studios you want to work for, and the reels of the studios themselves. Look at what they have in their reel and create your own version of that. Ask yourself, have you demonstrated each principle of animation somewhere? Could you revisit clips and upgrade them? Look at the reels you've watched in your research and figure out mechanics you haven't animated yet. With this information, set yourself short tasks, designing the movement to fill gaps in your showreel. When I graduated from my master's and had some time, I'd set myself an exercise once a week to make a short animation like this. Not only did it give me something to post on social media for attention, but it also meant my showreel evolved rapidly. I was able to send showreels to studios monthly, and the reel would be updated each time with a few new clips. It had the added benefit of producers seeing my progress each time they watched, and helped me keep learning. I hope this video helps if you're editing your showreel for the first time or the 30th. Thank you for your time. I can't wait to see what you create next.